So finally I will get to do a big scale replay on Minas Tirith. I've been wanting to do something on this map for a long time. Obviously it's a map from vanilla and everyone knows it, but it is quite demanding usually, and unfortunately every time I tried to do something someone would disconnect or someone would crash or something along those lines, because it is a very concentrated map, and on 8-player battles it can be quite demanding on people's systems. So it is quite rare when you get 8 random players together that it actually sees it through all the way to the end. So I am glad that someone sent me this replay. This was Stewed Fungus, I believe, who is one of the players. You can see obviously the green on the map is his army, so he will be on the attacking factions. I should mention as well that my voice is steadily getting worse as I get sicker and sicker, so my voice may very well start to give out towards the end of this one, because obviously a Minas Tirith siege is bound to take quite a long time, and this is of course 53,000 frames, and there probably won't be a great deal in the way of cuts in this one, because of course there isn't really a great deal of a gap between each engagement on Minas Tirith usually, so it's not really worth cutting out. So without further ado, let us go through the army compositions, starting off with the defenders, and we have Wesker playing as Gondor. Now all of the defensive compositions will likely be together, so I'll do them all at the same time. We've got some Sons of the Argonath over here. Of course, he's got, I presume this is his general unit. Maybe not, actually. I can't see the general unit model here. But obviously they are a very, very strong infantry unit indeed. And, you know, towards the late game, they could be the thing that win you a battle in a defensive siege, despite being a more offensive unit. Over here we have Citadel Bodyguard. Again, this is a very defensive unit. This unit really typifies Gondor, to be honest with you. A very high tier, very effective spearman. In the next patch, I believe spears will be getting generally a little bit better, because at the moment they can be a bit lackluster depending on which unit you're talking about, and I think that spears deserve to be a little bit better than they currently are. So Gondor as a faction should improve as a whole, because this is really just something that typifies them. Obviously the Gondor spearmen are also something that they rely quite heavily upon. Down here we have more of Wesker's forces. He's sort of defending the higher layers, it seems. So if we look here, there's sort of a road going up. In fact, in the middle sections you don't often see a great deal of a force deployed here. It's usually right at the top and right at the bottom, so it'll be interesting to see how the phases work. Gondorian winged swordsmen, again, a very attack-minded unit, but they will die kind of quickly. They've got decent armour but no hit points, so that is something worth bearing in mind. Just behind them we see the shielded fountain guard. Again, very, very good unit. One of the few spearmen that I really, really like in this current patch. They're very, very strong, very tough to break down, and they can also dish out a bit of punishment, albeit quite slowly. And then over here we have the Lasarnak nobles again. A good shock unit, but they don't have hit points. They are cheaper than the winged swordsmen, and they are armor piercing. I like them as a unit. They do fill a vital role in Gondor, but they won't be able to go toe to toe with some of the higher tier shock units of other factions, which are more aggressive, shall we say. Now let's see if we can, I hope I don't miss any of these positions that they have sort of occupied. It does actually look like the rest of their forces are largely down here, so more of Wesker's forces. He's got Guards of Osgiliath back here again. The only Gondorian pikemen. One of the reasons why I've, maybe gone off Gondor a little bit since Manila is that they only have these guys as a pikeman, and they are quite expensive. Again, maybe a cheaper pikeman just to add to them, I don't know. That might make them a little bit too overpowered in terms of polearm units, but we'll see. I mean, there's no reason why they couldn't have like pike militia or something. It makes sense for Gondor to invest heavily in their long spears, and this of course is another Guards of Osgiliath unit. Now the rest of their forces, again, there's another force down here, and again this is Kingdom of Arnor, Son of the Dunedain, so we're getting into some of the other armies as well here. Again, Arnor Gate Guards, a very strong pike unit. Because of the hit points, they might be the strongest pike unit in the game at the moment. Admittedly, I don't think they get their killing done quite as quickly as the Imladris Guards, but again, pikes aren't really designed to kill things quickly, so there is always that. Back here we have Son of the Dunedain's very comprehensive archer force, 2 Dunedain Trollslayers and the Dunedain Bodyguard. Again, these 3 units are really why I think Arnor are my favourite faction at the moment. They're so good in the skirmish, in both killing high-profile targets and in dealing damage to enemy archers. And then back here we have a lot more units, so they're actually going for more of a middle layer defense. I hope this doesn't turn into a one long choke point battle. I hope they have defended the bottom layer comprehensively. We have dismounted Dunedain Knights, and we also have over here some Arthedain Knights. Again, slightly more offensive, but they aren't armor piercing, so don't expect them to dish out quite as much damage as some other units. Gondor infantry as well, so we have more of Wesker's forces over here. He's got his more standard units down here, spearmen and infantry all mixed together. There's some veterans of Osgiliath mixed in as well. Doesn't look like there's any other types of infantry over here, though. There is more veterans of Osgiliath. But yes, Gondor, you're always going to see this from them. Lots of sort of middle tier units to really bulk out their forces. They've also got some Citadel archers. There's some blue capes in there. Is that the... Yep, the Wardens of the White Tower are in there as well. some more Gondor Citadel archers as well, and some more veterans of Osgiliath back there. So he's got a decent force, good archers, and very high tier units. Also Arnor, of course, bringing some forces back here. Master Blaster is also playing as the Kingdom of Arnor, so it's the Númenóreans that are on the defence altogether. That's quite a nice thing, actually. Lots of Arnor pikemen again. I agree with this. The Arnor pikemen are a very good unit. In the past, they were always kind of overshadowed by the Uruk-hai pikemen, but I think they've managed to hold their own in recent times. Then back here we've got the Arthur Dane men-at-arms, again Master Blaster. I might miss some of these defensive units, but I'll try and get them all in. More Gondor infantry, more Arthur Dane men-at-arms, sword and shield units near the wall. I'm not so sure about that. They need more aggressive units here as well, otherwise they will just end up stalling rather than killing. Dismounted Dunedain Knights. Looks like Master Blaster has decided to deploy all of his army down here, which I like. More Arthur Dane Knights, more battle-ready Dunedain. Well, the first battle-ready Dunedain. Some Arnorian Peacekeepers. These guys are pretty crap in the current patch, to be honest with you. There's no reason to bring them over the Dunedain Wardens. They look nicer, but in terms of effectiveness, they certainly lack a little something. You know, again, on Minas Tirith, I enjoy deploying all my army on the lowest layer. I don't like making the defenders, well, making the attackers, I should say, walk all the way up to the top, because it's a long enough battle as it is on Minas Tirith. Usually we also have the Gondorian Trebuchet from Wesker. Now let's see if we can't get more of these forces over here. So we've got more Arnorian Peacekeepers, again, not the best unit, to be honest with you, at the current patch. Dismounted Dunedain Knights, more pikemen, some Arnor Militia from Son of the Dunedain, a Catapult, a Trebuchet, some Dunedain Troll Slayers, and in here we've got some Arthur Dane Knights, and up here we have more Gate Guards, some Troll Slayers as well, so it's just very elite armies, and Dunedain Wardens as well. I'm not to say the Dunedain Wardens look bad. I mean, they have the same look overall as the battle-ready Dunedain, only they have a shield and spear. I believe these guys were called the Northern Line Volunteers in one of the other submods, or at least a unit that looked very, very similar to them in battle-ready Dunedain. And dismounted Arthur Dane Knights. Then up on the walls we have Dunedain Rangers, and that's likely to be, you know, just archer forces that will be pretty rapidly pulled off the walls, as they often are. More Dunedain Rangers over on this side. So now let's go through the Orc factions. I'll try and whiz through these a little bit more quickly, because you know what to expect from the Orcs the vast majority of the time. We have Pizza Maker 90 playing as Gundabad. Gundabad on the attack are very, very scary. Once they get rolling, it's difficult to get them to stop. Black Uruk Warband, lots of Marauders on the front line. We also have Snaga Stalkers. Again, they're hiding and impetuous, and we have Black Uruk Warband back over here. We have the Rudal Berserkers, could be a potentially very effective unit, both Arnor and Gondor. Very dependent on their armour, so units like this could be key. We also have Mountain Trolls. Black Uruks of the mountains could be another thing, and I should say as well that the unit scaling is on huge, so I really hope the frame rate holds up, and I also, you know, this means that there's a ton of units on the field. I mean, what can you expect? 53,000 frames is actually not that much for this sort of battle, to be honest with you. Witch Realm Scourge Raiders, I've seen it go up to 70,000 very easily in the past. Witch Realm Hammer Guard, Guardians of Khandu, and Witch Realm Blackguard. So he's got pretty much a split army between quality and trash, which is probably what all of them have, to be honest with you. Let's have a look over here. Again, more Gundabad from Stewed Fungus, the one who is responsible for the replay. We have Guardians of Khandu at the front. Rudal Savages, I like this unit. It's a good pick in this situation. They might not be the most durable, but they will get some decent damage done. Over here we've got some Mountain Trolls, Gundabad Guard, Orc Marauders, some more Rudal Savages back here, some Snaga Stalkers. He's got some Cav as well. Again, Witch Realm Inquisitors, it's more likely to try and counteract any enemy Cav coming out of the gates, but it doesn't seem like that's going to be necessary. The Witchers, potentially very useful in the late game, and some Witch Realm Blackguard as well. Similar sort of thing, again, decent amount of quality, but there is also trash in there as well, so we'll see how that goes. Orc Archers, the Spartan, and Mordor. Of course, you couldn't have a battle on Minas Tirith without Mordor attacking. Orc Archers, again, not the best archers, but they will at least be able to put some suppressing fire down. Some Orc Fodder, of course. Can't have a Mordor army without fodder, and we've just got a lot of Moran on Uruks, Orc Maulers, and more Orc Fodder in there, pushing the siege towers, and then more Orc Fodder. Back here he will have his quality, Sauron's Will, more Sauron's Will. Temple Guard could be very useful in the late game, provided they're not skirmished down. Olag High, good at breaking the line. Temple Inquisitors, very strong. Neither Gondor nor Arnor has a unit that can go one-on-one with these guys. Númenórean Shield Guard, Morgul Chosen, Uruk Bodyguard, and then at the back we have Nazgul. So yeah, they've got some decent quality to all these attacking armies, but the first wave is likely to be pretty easily repelled, and then the defenders will be really put under pressure. More Gundabad from Because the Potato. So based on the number of Gundabad armies, the players know exactly how strong Gundabad are. We have Goblin Trackers over here to give a bit of a skirmish force. He's spread out his army a little bit more. Orc Fellas, Snaga Stalkers, more Snaga Stalkers, and more Orc Fellas. So again, right at the front we have all of his lower tier units, and then back here he looks like he's got a bigger army actually. Black Uruks of the Mountains forming another line. Rudao Berserkers forming another line. He's picked all the right things by the looks of things. Witch Realm Scourge Raiders as well. Trolls of Gundabad. Bolgs Champions again, so they've got some cav. I mean, if they can smash through a choke point with cav, it could still be worth it. But again, without any enemy cav to answer, it's not going to be the wisest investment. More infantry probably would have been better. Witch Realm Hammer Guard, Witch Realm Blackguard, and Numenorean Shadow Guard. And the final army before we can get cracking is Egg-Slop on top playing as Mordor. So Mordor and Gundabad together, Moran on Uruks, Sauron's Will pushing the Watchtowers. Sauron's Will, not a very armoured unit, so you really don't want to send them in first. Orc Archers, again, lower tier archers, but that's understandable as the Orcs. You want to have all your expertise in melee. Olag High, Mounted Temple Inquisitors, that's an interesting pick. Numenorean Shield Guard, Uruk Halberds, a Catapult, more Uruks. Again, he's got more standard Uruks and more Uruks, and then back here we've got the Orc Archers. Is that it? It does seem like it. He's got a lot of Uruks, so he's obviously gone for a little bit more in the way of numbers. And he's more of a supporting army as well, which is good. This lays out pretty well. So let's go back to the main gate and let us begin. Let us see how well the frame rate holds up. And based on the slight juddering, it's going to be a little while before the frame rate fully stabilizes. Meanwhile, if we look in here, we can see the Dunedain Rangers again. This Mordor army deployed very, very close to the gate. I'm not sure if that's a change that's been made recently, but I'm very used to Mordor having to deploy, well, the attackers having to deploy further back. They've got a nice shot into the flanks of those Orc fodder. Again, the Dunedain Rangers trying to get as many kills as they possibly can up on this wall. It won't be long, or at least it likely won't be long, before the archers will be forced off the walls. This is how it generally goes in Medieval 2. Unless there is a bombardment phase, if the attackers come forward quickly, your archers will be forced off the walls and it will turn into a bit of a slog. And a slog is something the defenders don't really want when it's a wide position like the walls. Again, the towers in the current patch are pretty darn OP, but to be honest with you, based on the number of orcs that are besieging the settlement, this is fine. You know, it depends on how the defenders approach this, how sporting they want to be, because obviously Minas Tirith is one of those maps where you have to have a gentleman's agreement, so to speak, to not just deploy your units in one long choke point. Because not only is it very boring, it's not really the sort of battle you want to see when you're, particularly when you're attacking. If someone does that when you're attacking, you always go, ugh. Again, it's all about enjoyment at the end of the day. Winning is secondary. Getting in close to these Dunedain Rangers, very good unit. I'm looking forward to the next patch with how the Rangers will have their body piercing arrows, so they'll be able to kill more than one unit with an arrow. It'll give them more of a purpose. At the moment, I feel like, really, with a few exceptions, Arnor being one of them, because of how extensive their archer line is, it'll give the Rangers more of a purpose. But yes, this wall is now being attacked by the catapult, so now they will be forced to retreat. This is how it goes most of the time. Meanwhile, over here we can see that the most aggressive player is going to be Because the Potato, with his first line of Gundabad forces coming in. They will be quickly repelled. There's a lot of arrows coming in and across. The Goblin Trackers are firing in. They're going for the Trebuchet as well, I believe, that's a good target. I mean, if they can weaken the Trebuchet now in a cheap way like this, that's good for them. Again, these Snaga Stalkers and these Orc fellas are not really going to make too much of an impression on the front line of the forces of good, to be honest. The Dunedain Rangers will go away from the front line, but the Arthedain Men-at-Arms, and even, well, the Arnorian Peacekeepers will take a few losses to Orc fellas, but this is still going to be sufficient to throw them off, at least for the time being. These Dunedain Rangers over here still able to fire. They've killed a ton of units over there. You can see the bodies on the floor. Wesker is now moving a lot of his Gondor infantry into position. We can see over here, though, this Orc fodder is very nearly dead, but it is going to push the siege towers onto the wall, and they're going to have a lot of ways up onto this wall. Again, the defenders do need to get up onto these walls and make a play to defend them, Dunedain Rangers, because of course letting the attackers have the wall is bad news. It means they can get their skirmishers up there. Admittedly, the attackers haven't brought much in the way of good skirmishers. The Temple Guard are a bit of an exception, but we shall see. These Orc Marauders are going to get on the wall. They are armour piercing, but they are of course very low quality, and battle ready Dunedain coming to answer them are a very good unit. They're not the most heavily armoured, and they have a lot of melee skill. Oof. Hopefully those walls fall quickly. You can see here these Gondorians up on the wall. This is very thematic. They are going to be the first line of defence. 203 in a unit. Again, I think this might be, in terms of the number of units on the field, the biggest battle I've done to date. So we'll see how the frame rate holds up. Yeah, there's more Gondorians coming up onto the walls. They will hold for a decent amount of time against lower tier orcs, but if something of quality is committed against them, they will fall apart relatively quickly. Their ability to form shield wall is robbed from them. Oh my. They really can't break down those walls quickly enough. On this side, the Arnorians are doing the same thing. Arthur Day men-at-arms individually are slightly better, but they do have slightly fewer men in the unit, but it's a similar sort of story over here. Against lower tier units, they will do a good job, but against higher tier units, much less so. And they're being backed up by battle-ready Dunedain, so this is going to be a very effective front line that they're forming against the lower tier stuff. The attackers really need to be ready to follow through their first wave, otherwise it's going to be largely wasted on this pretty solid defensive force, all things considered. Oh my. Okay, so it looks like that wall is going to fall. We have this orc fodder pouring onto the walls. Over here they were a little slower to get onto the walls, and as a result this Arnor militia, there goes the gate. So the attackers are doing the right thing by being aggressive on all fronts. I do like it when attackers take this tactic into a battle. So if we look over here, we can see that the Arnor, over here they were slightly slower, and the Arnor militia are being tasked with fighting a unit which is beyond their capabilities. The Moran Honorics are pretty darn good, and they will start to beat back the Arnor militia. Even with the support of the arrow towers, this looks like the weakest point in the defence, and of course over here we can see there is now a gap in the wall. So there is a lot of ways in for the attackers, and this is what they need, because obviously their first wave is going to be made up of pretty low tier units, to be honest. If we look over here, Stewed Fungus, the one who sent the replay. He's getting some Orc Marauders down here. The Dunedain Wardens, they don't have a lot of armour, to be honest with you, so they will do just fine against the armour-piercing damage and, of course, hit points. And pretty decent melee expertise. These Rudauer Savages are coming up against battle-ready Dunedain and Gondor infantry. If the battle-ready Dunedain weren't present, this would be going alright for them, but unfortunately they are, so they will fall away pretty quickly. Alas. Meanwhile, down here we can see that very quickly, actually, I can see why it's only 53,000 frames, which, again, only is a bit weird to say, but Minas Tirith can often last longer, but the attackers are being very aggressive, and I do like that. And this does also mean that the frames will start to improve as we go and more readily. So that helps me out. We can see that the Arnor Gate Guards are being committed here. Now, the Snaga Stalkers and the, I believe those are Orc Marauders, that are following them in, stand no chance against a defensive line like this. But it's all about attrition. If the attackers can engage on many fronts, eventually one front will start to show weakness. You can see this Orc Fodder over here is being engaged by a unit of Arthur Day Knights, which again will absolutely paint the floor with their blood. I do like the Arthur Day Knights. Again, Arnor, my personal favourite faction in the game at the moment. Again, that's largely due to things that shouldn't really be the case, like the fact that you can have 2 Knights of Numinos before the cost increases. That's something that shouldn't be available. It's bordering on overpowered, but obviously it's likely to change. Obviously new factions will be added. I think I will probably quite like Linden, based on what I hear about them. A mixture of aggression and pikes is what I'm all about. These Moran Honorics, again, they seem to have stopped moving. While over here, again, the frame rate, it really can't be helped. Oof, dear. If we look over here, we can see that these Moran Honorics are pushing onto the walls more comprehensively against these Gondor infantry. The towers that are nearby are going to mean that the Gondor infantry would be victorious 1-to-1, but of course the reinforcements that will follow through, at the second attempt they will start to break through on these fronts. We shall see how this goes. Meanwhile over here you can see, I do like when, I like the initial play from the attackers here. Again, the defenders haven't done anything wrong as of yet, but the attackers have really taken the front foot, and they're engaging these slightly lesser units of Gondor infantry, trying to really whittle them down, and then hopefully they follow this through with a good sturdy hammer blow with a second wave. Over here we can see Orc Maulers, again another armor piercing unit. Again, they're not a high tier unit, they are just above garbage. Like, garbage I would say is a free unit, but Orc Maulers, that armor piercing damage can pay for itself very readily. But as you can see over here, those dismounted Dunedain Knights are getting up onto the walls. See in the background over there, Orc Fellas are coming as well. The Dunedain Knights are being deployed over there to try and deal with them. Again, Orc Fellas, the same thing basically, exactly the same. I think the Orc Maulers might be slightly better in terms of stats, but it doesn't really matter when you're talking about units that are as low tier as all that. And these Dunedain Knights, will mow them down with impunity. Again, it's a little bit laggy. Let's see if we can. Oh, which one is it? Shift? Yes, it is. So here we go. Gonna just, you know, put it down to 0.5 for the time being. Just make it a little bit easier on me camming all of this. Also, it's likely that we'd miss, at regular speed, we'd probably miss several. I mean, look at that. Exlop on top. What a name that is. He's really bringing his army around, ready to reinforce. That's good. It's a good move on his part. See over here, there's a lot of maulers. Victory actually seems certain now for Orc maulers against Gondor infantry. Again, they're being sandwiched between these Moran on Uruks. We get in nice and close over here. The Orc mauler, again, like I say, low tier units can quickly pay for themselves. Again, they're much more prone to routing and very weak to arrow fire usually, but if they can get into melee like this, again, cost efficiency is the name of the game. And you can see here that this pike unit is kind of being skirmished down outside the gate by Orc archers. Again, the Orc archers will do what they can from here. You know, there are those Dunedain troll slayers just behind, ready to destroy any of the trolls that move forward. Meanwhile, over here you can see these Moran on Uruks are quickly now starting to destroy this Arnor militia. Again, as far as militia units go, the Arnor militia is not half bad, but at the end of the day, it is still a militia unit against a dedicated unit of mid-tier infantry like the Moran on Uruks. They will fall unsupported anyway. They do need to get another unit up here. This After-Day man-at-arms will probably need to be committed pretty soon if they intend to hold this wall, which I think they do, based on the fact that they've got the comprehensive pike wall still at the gate and are not falling back. These Arthur-Day knights, dismounted Arthur-Day knights, engaging the Orc maulers in combat. Again, they will start to feel the attrition of all these armor-piercing units as well. They will win, but they will start to feel it. Meanwhile here, the only real entry into the ground floor of the settlement here, we can see the Rudauer savages are in combat, backed up by a unit of steadily depleting Orc marauders. Again, if we look into this further in on these streets, you can see that these Arthur-Day men-at-arms, there is pikemen backing up as well. They don't stand a chance at breaking through here, but again, it's all about engaging the units, killing as much as you can, and in the late game, that should work in your favour. Of course, as I keep saying, the attackers always when you're outnumbered like this, or when you have the numbers advantage as the attackers, you always have the luxury of making a few mistakes, a few misplays. If the defenders make a misplay, it's basically game over in the long run. I've never seen an outnumbered defence force fall significantly behind and turn it around to win in Reforged anyway. So it happened a couple of times in Vanilla Medieval, but never on Reforged as yet. And I think that's because the elite units can be depended upon to really do so much. And the attackers usually always have an elite unit in the pocket at the end. Oh, excuse me, we can have that. See this Gondor militia and this battle-ready Dunedain. There's only 24 battle-ready Dunedain left alive. So again, these Rudauer savages and Orc marauders, lower tier units, are slowly bleeding these units dry. You can see those Rudauer savages up on the watchtower. They seem to be going back down the watchtower, deciding to take a different tactic. These Dunedain rangers, I think, are actually redeploying up onto the wall, seeing what they can do from here. You can see, just like when you look out as a defender and just see how many waves the attackers have, it can get quite disheartening sometimes. The Dunedain wardens are now up on the wall, putting some pressure on these Orc marauders. And the Orc marauders, you know, they'll lose very handily to Dunedain wardens. Dunedain wardens are pretty damn good in the current patch. They're not the best spears in terms of base stats. They do lack a little something, particularly in the defense stat compared to some of the really good spears, but nonetheless, they do still make up for the disappointment that is the Arnorian peacekeepers. Over here we can see that Snaga and more Rudauer savages are being committed. The Orc marauders are getting shaken, so they're keeping up the pressure on this front. They don't stand a chance in terms of breaking through here, but these battle-ready Dunedain that are committed forward will start to fall. Despite victory, well, now it's evenly matched because of the new unit of savages. Again, these Arnor Gate Guards are ready and in position, and the Arnor Gate Guards are brutal to try and break down. A truly elite unit. And we have these Arthur-Day Knights. They're still fighting the Marauders again. They're going to be victorious. Getting a little more bloody though. This is the area of real concern for the defenders, because now Orc fodder has also followed the Moran on Uruks up onto the wall to give them numbers, so they won't easily be dealt with over here. They are taking some archer fire from the Dunedain Troll Slayers. So even though they may be taking some pretty heavy losses from the Troll Slayers, the fact that You know, Troll Slayers don't have a lot of ammunition. Their ammunition is precious, and should definitely only be used on high-profile targets, because it can get some really good killing done. They're still my favourite unit. I hope they aren't like nerfed into the ground in the next patch, because I love them. And I don't think they're overpowered because they don't have much ammo. This Gondor infantry is facing off against the Moran on Uruks. That's a pretty even fight. You know, the towers should still push this into Gondor's favour, or at least a mutual loss situation. But you know, the Moran units are very, very, very cost effective in the current patch. And again, we have more Gondor infantry over here defending their city, more Moran units. Then over here we can see these Orc Maulers. These Dunedain Knights were easily victorious. I don't think they've taken... Actually, no, I think they have taken... They've taken 4 losses, I think. Again, these guys are wavering. So it's... You know, this first wave is starting to tire. But of course, there's just another wave to repel. If we look down here, these Orc fellas have... Were they fighting anything? I think the Dunedain Knights, actually, they just turned around and stopped engaging them. So now... Well, the Dunedain Knights could find themselves surrounded by trash, admittedly, but that's still going to bleed them a little more than the defenders would like, I'm sure. Arthedain Man-at-Arms still waiting. These siege towers were just put into position and now they're just being left. I like the idea because siege towers do get damaged by arrow towers when there are units inside them. Over here, we can see a unit of Uruks. These Uruks have made some pretty decent headway. I mean, they are going to lose against Arthedain Men-at-Arms, but they are still securing a bit more of a position on this wall. So again, I believe this is, yep, this is Egg-Slop on Top's army. And he is going to be, you know, just this pressure that he's keeping up is going to be good. Let's see if we can go back up to normal speed again, a bit more lag, just to hurry this up a little bit. Otherwise, we'll be here all day with 53,000 frames. Ugh, that's pretty nasty though. Yeah, I'm gonna have to turn it down again. No matter. Everyone loves a good long battle anyway. Meanwhile, you can see over here that there's Snaga, there's Black Uruk Warband, there's Men of Rudawa, all in this big clump. That Arthedain Man-at-Arms as well, defeat seems certain because they're engaging without the direct support of the pikes. And over here we can see that there is still a few men here, a few battle-ready Dunedains, but there's only 9 of them left. They're being overrun by Snaga. The definition of quantity versus quality. Again, this is, you know, as the Orcs. No, oh my. Well, that's the perfect target for this trebuchet. Is it going to get a hit? It needs to be careful it doesn't get some hit on. A friendly fire on the Arnor Gate Guards would be disastrous. Losing even 1 to friendly fire would be tragedy. Let's see if we can get a nice juicy hit. Come on. Oh, here we go. Is it going to hit? No, it's not in the right place. The angle is just a little too steep for the trebuchet to really meaningfully reach. At least with any sort of accuracy. Which is unfortunate because it's the perfect place. You can see there's a few like dead men just from the skirmish fight that's been going on. There's also meat being flung, which if the attackers are flinging meat, that's going to be to their detriment. Their units will rout much more easily than the defenders, and the defenders, you're not getting rid of any units because they'll just return to the town centre. You can see even on 0.5 speed, there's a bit of lag. Oh my. Real close up there. Orc fodder is following in these Moran on Uruks. That should secure the fight. I mean, they won't do much damage, but they will at least back up these Moran on Uruks to the point where the Gondor infantry won't stand much of a chance. Sauron's Will. Egg-Slop on top, really being aggressive here. Well, Gondor infantry doesn't stand much of a chance against Sauron's Will, particularly not with Moran on Uruks in the background. Sauron's Will are not too durable despite their hit points, but they are deadly. They will do damage with their big war clubs. I don't know what's going on here. The Gondorians seem to be trying to force their way through. The hit points means the Sauron's Will won't take a great deal of casualties from this sort of thing, but the Gondor infantry will. Well, over here, Dunedain Rangers, are they out of ammunition? I would assume so. They will, of course, beat Orc fellas in sustained melee. I think I might actually make it, well... No, screw it. Unedited. All the well, actually, this is going to take forever, isn't it? these Uruks, Arthedain men-at-arms. The Arthedain men-at-arms will be victorious unless there's another wave sent in. We shall see. They're really trying to skirmish down the pike lines over here, which I don't blame them for, the attackers. This does mean the defenders have had to sort of reposition their defences. This does mean that if the attackers were to charge in now, they would be surrounded, yes, but the defenders would also have sort of this whole section of their settlement cut off, essentially, from retreat. Which, again, that sort of thing could be crucial come the late game. Units that they've held in reserve. There goes another wall. It's the sort of thing the attackers need to do. They need to find ways in. The narrower the engagements, the more it favours the defenders. These Arnor pikemen. There's dismounted Dunedain knights in here as well. It does look actually like they're going to be engaging the Arnor gate guards, which they are. The gate guards backed up by Gondor infantry. There's 78 of them. Oh no. Wait a second. The attackers have artillery? They don't. So they did. They got friendly fire with the trebuchet. They must have done. That's terrible, actually. Look at all of that. Those are units which are nigh on impossible to break down from the front with anything short of a huge, huge push. And look at all of them, just dead on the floor. That's a tragedy, that is. And now this Gondor infantry is trying to burrow into this sort of attacking force. They're going to be horribly outnumbered, and they're taking hideous casualties on the way forward because, of course, there are axemen in there. They're not really going to... That's another waste. Ooh. The defenders need to be really careful here. I mean, you can't afford too many mistakes like these. Meanwhile, over here, it does look like they've really reinforced this area over here with some heavy-duty units in the Arthedain Knights. And they're going to be forcing back the Mordor Moran on Uruks. And they will die. Anyway, I think I will actually make a small cut here to the point until the attackers are really, really starting to move. And a bit of movement is seen, because otherwise we're going to be here for far too long. It'll take literally 2.5 hours, I think. And I don't want to impose that much on people's time. Turns out I didn't have to wait for long. You can see over here that the Orcs are really trying to push. It's mixed success. The Gundabad Guard are really the ones leading the way over here. But also, they're coming in through the main gate now. Again, just with one unit of Uruk Halberd so far, they do need to back these guys up. They don't stand a chance against Arnor pikemen, and especially not when they're being flanked. But it does look like they are going to send up some Orc archers that are out of ammunition. Just the fact that they're engaging, but also over here, the other gap that they opened up in the wall in the background over there, they have managed to slip in with some Moran on Uruks. They are going to be surrounded by battle-ready Dunedain. And again, it's all about filtering into the settlement. They're starting to find more ways in. As we can see over here as well, Uruk Halberds facing off against Dunedain Knights. They don't stand much of a chance. Again, they are being backed up by fellas, but so far it's all about that attrition. Whether or not the defenders will be able to cope into the late game. Again, they did actually tell me the funds that they used, but I can't quite remember what they were off the top of my head. So I might need to post those in the description along with the Discord and the timestamp for the battle starting and the mod DB, I should say. The other unit of Sauron's Will is being committed, so over here the attackers are making a concerted push. This Gondorian infantry is not really going to be up to the task of dealing with this higher tier shock unit. Sauron's Will, I believe, are unbreakable as well. I think so. It's something. They have something they can do. I know they can chant, but I could have sworn there was something else about them as well. No matter. You can see the pikemen down here. They are starting to be surrounded. The Dunedain Knights are sort of squeezing in. They don't really have the units committed forwards that will do a huge amount of damage, but over here you can see the Uruk Halberds. Halberdiers are good, but they don't have the same animation as pikemen, and so the Arnor pikemen will be able to hold here. Apparently this battle took 5 hours in real time, and I imagine that was down to the lag. What is this over here? There's a lot of scorch marks. There's also trolls. So the attackers are really starting to push over here. Good on them. The Gundabad Guard and now the mountain trolls in the background. It looks like they smell blood. They want to smash through this opening defence pretty quickly. And I can't blame them. The defenders have got a lot of their units a lot further back, so they won't be able to readily reinforce. Again, they are still going to lose, and the Gundabad Guard are making sure that they aren't forced out of the settlement. They do still need to commit. Let's see if we can go over this massive blob without crashing. We can indeed. How many gate guards are left? Over here, the Orcs are really making a push. 70 still. They're all out of position though. It's exactly the sort of thing you want to see if you're the attackers. Gundabad Guard are getting in there, backed up by Black Uruk Warband and Orc Marauders. I'm actually amazed the lag isn't as bad, isn't worse, to be honest with you. What is this? Oh, it's Gondor infantry. Snaga archers trying to deal with them. They need to be careful they don't damage their own tower. Let's see what's going on back at the main gate. Indeed, the attackers need to commit forward something a little bit more heavy duty over here. They could do. I mean, there are banks and banks of pikemen, but there's not really anything that can kill your forces off quickly. I mean, these Uruk halberds will lose, but they're not dying off. So, if you can engage this pike line, maybe find a way to flank around on one of the other fronts. There's a good opportunity for hammer and anvil. We shall see. Again, this area, they did commit, but they didn't commit more than one unit, so they were pretty easily dealt with. They did manage to sort of try and get some reinforcements in behind, but again, it's all rather chaotic over here. It's chaotic in the favour of the defenders for once. So these Orc fellas, they're going to lose, but look at how many men are just filtering in. There's so many men on the field. Oh my. The Peacekeepers are using their mass to throw these Orc fellas all over the place. They need to be careful. If they overcommit, there are Black Uruks of the mountains in the background there. And they will defeat the Peacekeepers pretty easily. While I can look over here, more Uruk halberds. Looks like there's people coming in through the gate. There's also this unit of Moran on Uruks up here, struggling to cope with the sheer number of Gondorians that have been committed against them. But again, that's in favour of the attackers at the end of the day. You can see there's just a carpet of Sauron's will munching through this Gondor infantry, and this is the area they need to be careful of, because if the Sauron's will is able to get into the sides of these pikemen, they could well break pretty quickly, and then they'll be able to get into the side, well, the rear of these pikes and these Peacekeepers. Well, actually, no, the Peacekeepers have turned around, just in case they foresee the flank that is going to fall. Over here, there's nothing really to back up the gate assault, so they're basically abandoning this front over here. Meanwhile, these Uruk halberds going up on the wall. Halberdier is not necessarily the best unit to put up on the wall. Again, I guess it doesn't matter as long as you're getting bodies onto the wall at this point. There's Orc archers, presumably out of ammunition, just waiting to be committed. No, they still have their bows out. We have the Snaga. Olag High are being committed. See, there's a lot of units. They're all scattered all over the place in the background over here. How will this end? These trolls are starting to sort of really get into... Again, most people think that pikemen counter trolls, and they couldn't be more wrong, actually. Trolls are the ideal tool for breaking a pike's defensive line, which is the main tool they have available to them. And also, when it comes to animations, the pikes have got a very strong animation, but the trolls is better, because they can hit... Their arcing swing means they can hit the pikemen relatively easily. Which means if you send a unit of trolls into a unit of pikes and then quickly back them up, the pike line will fall. And again, pretty quickly. Most of the time a pike line will hold for a long time. They won't get their killing done quickly, that's for certain. Over here we can still see gate guards. Only 6 more have died since last we saw them. Only half the force of stewed fungus remains. Let's have a look at the percentage of kills. 11% difference. At this point in the battle, the defenders would have been hoping for more, I think. And again, that will probably count against them in the long run, but for the time being they're doing alright. They haven't been flanked significantly yet. Up on the walls though, you can see over here there's just a unit of 73 Gondor infantry holding down these 2 towers. They are sending up those Dunedain wardens. But again, eventually they're going to run out of sort of units to commit, those Citadel archers. They're a pretty cool unit. Gondor aren't really known for their super good archers, but that's, you know, ooh. That is a very nice hit there. Whose catapult or trebuchet is that? That's Wesker's. Oh, actually no, it's Master Blasters. That's the Guards of Osgiliath. Very nice hits. I mean, it's prime target for a trebuchet, this. I mean, you can, once you have your trebuchet into a good position, you can scarcely miss, but again, the hit on his own gate guards might well prove to be absolutely key. That's outrageous. Oh my, there is Olag High moving up now though. This is exactly what they need, because the loss of those gate guards is more significant than the loss of a patch of marauders. The Orc archers have managed to get up onto the wall, so the defenders have actually surrendered sections of the wall to Orc skirmishers. And again, this means that the Orc archers will easily pay for themselves. Going after the pikemen is the best thing they could possibly do, depending on what they're targeting. What are they targeting? It looks like they're actually going after the Citadel archers, which is not really the best move. Getting into their own city. Will Gondor survive this day? This is probably one of the most lore-accurate battles I've done. To a point. This Gondor infantry is falling by the wayside to this Sauron's will, though, but I think it is time for another cut, because again, progress is slow because of the speed I'm forced to do this battle at. Oof. Just as I say that, something important happens. The loss of any Dunedain knights are tragic, and this catapult is in a good position from Exlop on top. The Spartan is sending forward his Sauron's will to engage them as well. Black Orcs the Mountains. Maybe we'll stick around just a little bit longer, just to see how this goes. Black Orcs and Sauron's will are no joke. The Dunedain Knights are a very, very strong unit, but we'll see how much punishment they can really take here. Another one fell there to an arrow. Dunedain Knights. An OG unit. And well, over here we can see that Snaga have come down from the wall. Victory seems certain for them against Arnorian peacekeepers. Amazing. The Snaga, people laugh at the Snaga, but they're actually not as bad as people think. These Dunedain Rangers, defeat seems certain for them as well. Again, they're being really just ground down, and over here, this part of the settlement is going to fall. The units over here, like these Arthur Day man-at-arms, are too isolated, particularly now that they're up against Black Uruks of the mountains. So again, these units will slowly start to fall. But again, I think time for a little cut. I think we'll rejoin at 20,000 frames in, just to see how things are going at that point. So finally, a little bit past 20,000 frames, we can see that the overrunning has started to take effect. The side of the settlement that was sort of more isolated has begun to fall, which does mean that the gate will also start to fall. There are a few patches of resistance. Even on 0.6, I'm getting lag, and there's no real surprise when there's two patches of troops exactly like this. They are very, very thick, and they're essentially being held back only by a single unit of Arthur Day man-at-arms. They're also up here Orc archers, Moran on Uruks, so they have essentially taken half of the lowest point of the settlement, but of course they still have a defensive position to make their way through. Units of pikemen will be holding, although I think this might be a bit more of a rearguard action, and they will be trying to save a few men and get them into the more advantageous choke points. Over here you can see just the reason for the lag, the unbelievable. In fact, I might just try and get a screenshot of that. That is definitely the only screenshot I'm taking, because I'm not going to risk this crashing at this point. You can see just the enormous concentration of Orc forces. They have been made to pay for it, although the gap has shrunk to only 4%. It's not impossible that the defenders can still win, but as you can see over here, they are now starting to break on one front, which means essentially they aren't going to have a path to retreat, at least not a reliable one. Even if it is only blocked off by Orc marauders, they're going to be able to save these units of pikes. Back here, you can see that this defensive line was essentially put in place just to stall the enemy. So these brave men, instead of 300, it's 177 plus 98. Doesn't sound quite as snappy, but actually it does look like they're actually going to try and get the Arthur Day. No, they're routing. So yeah, units that will rout, of course, any survivors will make it to the town centre and they will be able to be used again, but it's likely to not be very many of them. So this unit of pikemen will hold, and they will hold for a decent amount of time, provided the attackers can't get their ducks in a row to really smash through. You can see the Olag High menacingly in the background. They would be able to smash through pretty quickly. But also the wall, I mean, if we look up on the wall, over here the defenders are still in control, but that's because this is where their avenue of retreat is. They can't really afford to not control the wall over here. There are Rudal Berserkers up on this wall now, though. Again, they are up against Troll Slayers, though. Best unit. Maybe not statistically, but in my heart, And the Troll Slayers are ideal to go up against. Well, not ideal, but they will beat the Rudal Berserkers, especially when they're backed up by Spearmen. Over here you can see there's a ton of like green clouds. This is from where the Trebuchet was continuously firing. The Trebuchet has done an enormous amount of damage. I would be interested to see quite how much damage, but we shall... I don't think we'll have the luxury of that, because we will actually have to see Stewed Fungus's stats, and his army has largely borne the brunt of the defending forces over here. These Black Uruks have managed to escape, and they're now going to engage these pikemen. So the defenders, their lines are starting to crumble, which is only a good thing for the attackers. I mean, they do still have all of their elite units left, but then so do the attackers, more or less, and they have the numbers. You can see there's still only 4% in it. We aren't halfway through yet, so it just goes to show how long these battles can take. Again, 5 hours this took in real time. Real time it always takes slightly longer. Again, these pikes, the balance of forces is evenly matched, despite the fact they're going up against such numerically superior forces. Only one Olag High left alive. Or is there? No, there's a few more in the background. It's just this one is the one who took the initiative first and got into the defensive line. The Arnor pikemen are a big part of why I like Arnor as well. They're such an efficient pike unit. They're similar to the Uruk-hai pikemen, but the faction around them is better. Isengard, they do have their plus points, but they're just not for me. At least not in their current form. Maybe if some of their units get a little bit more... I don't know. I think there's nothing wrong with them per se. I just don't think their style suits me all that much. If I'm going to be orcs, I want to be recklessly aggressive, whereas Isengard, you've got to be a little bit more controlled, otherwise you'll find yourself on the receiving end of a pretty harsh beating. See those Olag High. They're going to disrupt the pike formation at the side, and all a rear charge from Stewed Funguses. I think one remaining healthy unit anyway, of Witcher-Elm Blackguard. The pikes don't stand a chance when sandwiched between these two units. R.I.P. Just look at the crowd. That is a lot of orcs. It'd be interesting to see quite how many. I'll keep my calculator on hand to calculate all of the men deployed totals at the end, if we ever get there. We still have just over 30k frames to go. And based on how quickly we're getting through them, that's not likely to pass especially quickly. These after-day nights are just sort of, again, it's devolved into chaos now. And the defending forces that are left down here, the only path open to them is get as many kills as you can before you fall. Some Witcher-Elm Blackguard over there. Some of Stewed Fungus's men seem to have stayed behind in these streets. These Snaga Stalkers are routing into the Arnorian pikemen. Well, if you see over here, the defensive line is actually held. There has been... The attack has actually failed on this front, more or less. They've managed to throw the attackers back out of the settlement. These Snaga Stalkers are the only ones still fighting, and the guards of Osgiliath and the Gondor infantry will easily be able to mop them up. The Orc Marauders are running for the hills. You can see Witcher-Elm Blackguard in the background out there. I mean, something is needed. They need to keep up the pressure. They have the advantage now. There's no sense in throwing it away.
If we continue like this, we will smash the enemy.
Again, I would still say that the attackers should probably go on from here to win this, but you never know. Those choke points at the top of Minas Tirith could be brutal, especially with the kinds of units the defenders still have left in the pocket. These Arnor pikemen are now also being surrounded by depleted units of Black Uruks. So this is very much the end for them, but they're still going to hold for a fairly decent amount of time. I mean, they're going to make life difficult for the attackers in terms of laying their army out, but the amount of kills they will get will ultimately be negligible. There's a single Troll Slayer trying to catch up to his mates. And then the Arnor pikeman. Again, you know, the defenders have done a few things right. There have been, I think, you can't really help it in a situation like this when your outer defence starts to crumble. I mean, it's kind of like when a ship is sinking and several holes are appearing. You only have so many limbs with which to block those holes. So eventually, you're going to start taking on some serious water. And you can see over in the background there, the Arnor Gate Guards are also running away. You can see that the defenders want to retreat at this point, and they are trying to get their pikes a bit further back, and good move. Pikes will give the defensive edge to your units at the top of the settlement. which is just what the defenders will need. There are Sons of Argonath down here. Wesker has committed his Sons of Argonath. They were all the way at the top of the settlement at one point. They are down here. The Gondorians really wanting to keep their settlement as orc-free as possible. The Sons of Argonath look awesome. Again, like, they might not be quite as good as the Haven Guard, but I think they win the style battle with the Haven Guard. My. Oh yeah, here we go. Now is some serious units. Witch Realm Hammer Guard and Witch Realm Blackguard coming in, telling the Snaga to, well, forcing the Snaga to get out of the way. Destroying those Gondorian infantry units. Again, the attackers are largely like sort of more forward. If we look back, you can see over there in the background the army of, because the Potato has still got a lot of his elite units left, they're going to need them in the late game. The same story with the Spartans Mordor army. The other three armies though are pretty much all committed. Interestingly enough, the defenders seem to be sort of umming and ahhing. So now they're sort of moving forward more units of pikes. These Saurons will. Also coming into combat. You can see that the fire arrows are being loosed as well. Fire arrows do not do more damage and they do take up more ammunition, but they will still get the job done. They will still... Any pikes, their primary weakness is always going to be missiles. Even the gate guards with their hit points, the primary weakness is still missiles. They'll do the damage, and then you push with mass, and they're already out of position, to be honest. When you lead the way with a pretty decent unit like Sauron's will, and the pikes are out of position, they will struggle more, and also there are units that are routing. These Snaga Stalkers are also coming into the sides. The amount of damage they will do is negligible, but they are still occupying several of the pikemen, and over in the background there you have a real problem for the Gondorians in the shape of the Hammer Guard. Battle Ready Dunedain would normally do quite well against Hammer Guard, but there are only 14 of them and they've been in combat for quite a long time. The Hammer Guard are fresh, fully healthy, exactly the sort of unit that is fantastic to use against Gondor with their heavy armor-piercing focus. So Pizza Maker 90, bringing them forward. And then we have the Witch Realm Blackguard from Stewed Fungus, basically his one remaining unit, trying to get up into the face of the few units that remain. What is this we have over here? The Trebuchet crew, the Master Blaster is also big. Again, this reeks of them trying to buy time, or they are actually trying to sort of form a defence here now. Arnor Gate Guards, and there are Dunedain Bodyguard. That's a serious unit. Mainly because I think they have one sort of over here, and they have managed to sort of set up a Guards of Osgiliath and Sons of Argonath line. There are Witch Realm Blackguard there now. So, you know, the defenders have sort of realigned their defence, and they've decided, I think initially they were going to retreat, but then they realised, hang on, we can put up a bit more of a defence on this lower layer. We still have the sections of the wall that we need. Meanwhile, over here there is more of a push going on. Guardians of Khan Doom, another serious unit from Pizza Maker 90, going up against these Gondor Citadel archers that still had ammunition. So this is going to be a big loss for the defenders, and they can't get them out of there because they are stuck, because the wall is very broken. There are a few Troll Slayers. Not going to be enough to beat that many Guardians of Khan Doom. The Troll Slayers are firing their missiles right into the backs of the Guardians of Khan Doom, it seems, but there are too many of them. Guardians of Khan Doom are, you know, they have the right amount of... They can take it, I think. This catapult is coming forward. The catapult could be a... That could be a game changer right here. Look at all of these orcs. That's begging for a catapult right there. Sauron's Will. Legions of Black Uruks. Lesser units as well, but you can scarcely miss. Artillery is a fickle beast. Sometimes it doesn't pay for itself at all, but here... Oh my word. I can't imagine what was going through the attackers' minds as they were seeing that. That were 3 square hits, and there's so much routing already. This could be just what the defenders need, because they were starting to lose their grip on the percentages far too early. The Gate Guards, the Troll Slayers, will be able to hold them. The problem they might have is this flank over here where the Blackguard and the Hammer Guard are. They're going to need to get the pikes in position quickly in order to hold them off. They need to get that catapult needs to get significant numbers of kills on just anything. Anything to sort of take the attackers' numbers away from them, because the defenders in the late game will have high tier units at the top of the hill. And then, well, you don't see 5v3s where the 3 defenders win too often, but if the artillery is used, it could work. Again, the gap is... it's not impossible. That was kind of a miss, to be honest with you. Another miss, hitting the statue, hitting the building. Can't afford misses. I need to get some good hits. I did also see a unit of rangers climb down the siege tower out here a minute ago, and they are doing so. It looks like that was a misclick though. They weren't actually trying to get in and around the attackers, presumably because they saw the temple guard coming and decided they want no part of that, which I don't blame them for. Over here we can see the clash of the Titans, the Witch Realm Blackguard against the Sons of Argonath, and the Witch Realm Blackguard will win that fight. If the Guards of Osgiliath were to join in, it could be a different matter, but looks like it's too late. Oh, that was another catapult hit. Oh, there was friendly fire. That was a pretty decent chunk of friendly fire. That wasn't though. That was a good hit. Again, friendly fire is going to be keenly felt by the defenders. Now that they've sort of made the decision to sort of commit more men down here, they really need to make it worth it. Can they though? The Witch Realm units are here in force now, and that is going to leave its mark regardless of what they do. The Olag High, the Zarnor Gate Guards, still only 45 of them. They've been in combat for so long against such a large amount of Orc forces. This is what you want from a Minas Tirith siege. You can scarcely see the floor in places. Ooh, here we are. The Temple Guard. Again, I've always found the Temple Guard to be a little bit underwhelming at range, but you know, that's another good hit on the enemy, but more friendly fire. The Temple Guard, as I was saying, they don't have armor-piercing arrows, which I think they might in the next patch, because it's going to be sort of a General's Bodyguard thing, and the Temple Guard are intended to be that, I believe. Right, okay, I will turn around and see the destruction. Oh dear. It is brutal. I mean, you saw that the legions of orcs that were sort of pouring forwards, and now the amount of routing that happened as look at all the burning bodies down there, look, has turned the front, well, even with all of those kills, I mean, even with all that routing, the orcs should still punch through eventually. Just the sheer weight of the Witch Realm units from Pizza Maker 90 is gonna allow them to break through here, I think. Those Olag High are doing their best to kick those pikes out of the way. And then over here we can see those Rangers are coming down. The Guards of Osgiliath did finally get into the Witch Realm Blackguard, and now the balance of forces is evenly matched. There's some Dunedain Wardens in the background there that could be committed. The Rangers, if they get off the wall and get into the side of them, that could turn the fight around as well. The Temple Guard, though, those Dunedain Rangers, they're actually going to flank around, it seems. They're fighting. Defending units outside the walls. Well, I need to hope that the Temple Inquisitors don't see them, because that would be one of the most one-sided fights I've seen in a while. Temple Guard. What are they doing? They still have all their ammunition. They need to be careful. They need to get further back. I understand the attacker's urgency to try and break through here, though. Some of these Black Uruks. The Black Uruks, they are sort of getting towards the Catapult Crew. And the Catapult Crew is abandoning it for the time being. You can see in the background there some dismounted Arthur Dane Knights are coming down the hill to chase them off. And then the catapults will reman their stations. You can see that the other two trebuchets are out of ammunition, so the catapult is the only artillery piece still in play. It wasn't enough to give
That was very much in our favour. Victory will be ours.
It wasn't enough to give them a significant lead either. It's only 4%. Oh, that's another good hit though. On Moran on Uruks, it's not a bad unit to thin out. Can they do it? It's not often you see artillery hits as good as this. That was actually only like one Gondorian died there. But they're starting to get overwhelmed now. Another unit is needed, otherwise they're going to need to abandon this position in a hurry. Knowing when to fall back is one of the intricacies of defending, and on Minas Tirith especially, when you have several layers to your name. Victory now seems certain for the Guards of Osgiliath over here. The Dunedain Rangers are preventing, I believe, the Temple Guard from firing. Nope, they're up against Witch Realm Blackguard, they're doomed. Well, let's go and see what's happening over here. Lasarnak Nobles going up against Guardians of Khan Doom. There are 99 of them, but they're fighting up against Troll Slayers and Lasarnak Nobles. They should lose that. Again, I think that their victory seems certain because of the fight they're having over here with what's left of these Citadel Archers, which they most certainly will win. My word. What chaos. These pikes are being backed into a corner over here. They need to reform, otherwise they're going to get smashed. Meanwhile over here, as soon as this like lower layer falls, I think I will put it back up to regular speed, because I will then feel confident enough in the fact that enough soldiers will have died, I think. You can see that the Snaga, don't know whether they routed and returned or what, they are on the front line. Man, I'm amazed my voice is holding up as well as it is. I'm going to feel this later. Xanor Pikeman, defeat is almost a certainty. The weight of the Witch Realm units is just too much, and again they are sending forward more defensive units, and Arthur Dane Knights are not a unit to be committed lightly. They're also sending in another unit of Arnor Gate Guards. So it does look, in fact, like they are serious about sort of staying here. The catapult still has ammunition, presumably. Oh, one of the trebuchets does still have ammo. That is square into the middle of the Orc position, and at this point they may as well, because the defensive line is falling. Just a grazing hit there. Another grazing hit. You can see in the background there, returning Snaga that routed before are now coming back to the fight to just add more numbers to this front line. And this is where the action is, because on the other front where the Guards of Osgiliath are at, the Temple Inquisitors, I can still see them just over the building there, haven't been committed. The Guards of Osgiliath will be able to hold. The Guardians of Khan Doom, even if they are victorious, they will be completely destroyed up on the walls to the point where they won't be able to impact the battle elsewhere. So this is where the action is at the moment. The main street leads up into higher Minas Tirith. Those Olakai are still alive. Still two of them. Again, the units that are on the front line, pikes don't get their killing done quickly. That is a nice hit. Again, Temple Guard are in there as well that haven't used their ammunition yet. If they were to die without using their ammunition, it would be a tragedy. They're actually trying to get into a position where I think they want to shoot the catapult. Not a bad plan, although they really should have got up onto the walls and tried to shoot them from up there. There are Snaga Stalkers getting up onto the walls. Oh man. These Snaga Archers don't stand a chance, but they're just sort of... they're engaging. There are Blackguard cresting the corner. There's another artillery shot, another good hit, mostly on Snaga, but still it's a good hit. These are disgusting artillery shots. I'm so glad that Stewed sent me this replay. Actually no, was it Stewed? I can't remember. Someone sent me this replay. I know it was Stewed that saved it, but I think maybe someone else sent me it. So much routing from the units that had only just gotten back to the front line. Those Witch Realm units have not been touched by the artillery though, and they are the real killing power. Let's go and have a look over here, shall we? Dunedain Knights backing up these Guards of Osgiliath. Numenorian Shield Guard are menacing the outer walls. These Dunedain Rangers are going to be defeated by the Witch Realm Blackguard, but they're being a nuisance. The Witchers for the attackers could be just the response they need here. In a match like this, you can scarcely see where the Witchers are. They kind of blend in with the bodies because there's so few of them. And by the time you see them, it could honestly be too late, especially seeing as the defenders have used up a lot of their skirmish ammunition at this point, I imagine. Seeing as we've seen Dunedain Bodyguard and Troll Slayers all in melee. But this line is holding. Fair play for the defenders for not retreating enormously far away. A bit of a miss there. The Temple Guard are firing. There's only friendly fire, killing a general. Probably Master Blaster's general. Let's have a look over here. The catapult 61 left. Are the Temple Guard actually shooting them? I assume they must be. Snaga Archers are routing. There's more just pouring just running around there. Rudal Berserkers from Because the Potatoes, and now elite units are really all they have to
Only
commit.
half the enemy force remains.
One of the defending armies only has half their force remaining. They now only have a 3% advantage despite these brutal artillery shots. They are losing their lead slowly but surely. That is a nice hit on the hammer guard, actually. Interesting. This is going to be a fascinating late game finish. Again, it's going to be a hugely long battle, but then there's not really much I can do about that. The lag would be far worse. Like you can still see it lagging, and I'm on half speed. The guards of Osgiliath. Oh, again, there's some friendly fire in there, but there's also a good amount of hits on the orcs. Those Rudal Berserkers are getting into the Arthur Dane Knights. That's a fight that, honestly, both of them should really do a real amount of damage on either one. So no one's going to come out of that one looking pretty. But there are 2 units of Rudal Berserkers down there. You can see the other one filing in. The Arthur Dane Knights, it looks like they're actually trying to retreat. That's the wrong move. You should never show your back to a strong unit like the Rudal Berserkers. You're just going to get chopped down as you retreat. I think they do realise that this line is starting to fall now, though. The Witch Realm units are going to punch through the pikes. This is going to be... It's looking like this is going to be the end. Now, yeah, because the Potatoes also sent over Rudal Berserkers over here. The Númenórean Shield Guard clattering into the front of these guards of Osgiliath. The attackers are going to force their way through the bottom layer, but not without pretty serious losses. They had to commit their elite units earlier than they wanted to. We shall see if that has any bearing on the late game. We can see that because the Potatoes army is being committed forwards in its full glory. I believe it was actually Stewed Fungus that had the witches. So where are they? Try and find them, but that seems like a waste of time. Oh, excuse me. Morgul chosen. There's another artillery hit. Looks like it sounded like another good one as well. Again, this has been a real killing field, and now Númenórean Shield Guard are feeling the wrath of their brethren, their non-fallen brethren. Again, these Dunedain Knights need to make a decision. Are they going to be committed to melee and helping the pikes, or are they retreating? Because at the moment, the pikes will not be able to hold back that many men. With the Dunedain Knights, they could, or at least for a while. They need to make a choice. Are they going to save those Dunedain Knights for later, or are they going to commit them now? Same story with these bloodied Sons of Argonath. The decision needs to be made now, because the defensive lines are looking ropey. The Rudal Berserkers have come forward and with their armour-piercing damage. That was the... You know, they're starting to creak now. They're starting to buckle. Just dead Olag High. There's a flanking opportunity here for these Dunedain Knights as well. I mean, the Rudal Berserkers will do a bit of a number on them, but... Again, it's decisions like this. You need to be snappy with all of your units. There's no room for error as a defender, and it does look actually like the Dunedain Knights are going to make their move. Are they going to retreat, or are they going to slam into the sides of these men? Actually, no, it doesn't look like they're going to do either. It looks like they're going to reinforce the other line, and the other line does need reinforcing quite badly. The addition of the Dunedain Knights will stabilise that line, but the Guards of Osgiliath need help. They're going to lose. They're going to lose hard. Rudal Berserkers and Númenórean Shield Guard. There's Temple Inquisitors waiting to follow them as well. Serious, serious stuff. Sons of Argonath as well. At this point you may as well commit that unit of 31. Send them in against the Rudal Berserkers, let them do what damage they can to an elite unit. See if we can't get in a little closer here. It's hard to see where the orcs begin. Well, the orcs and the dead bodies sort of blend in with one another. The Dunedain Knights should mean that this front over here actually gets won by the defenders. But again, there's just more attackers to come. You can see them in the background over there as well. Eggslop on top has got Uruks waiting there. Standard Uruks, just the sort of thing you want to see. Held in reserve just so you have a bit more... Ooh, do those Troll Slayers have ammunition? Ooh, they do. They have their bows out. Are they firing their arrows? Well, they need to make a decision pretty quickly because, unfortunately for them... Well, it's a wavering unit of Orc fellas. So they will win, but they are being delayed by just orcs that keep coming back time after time. Dismounted Arthurdane Knights. Another good hit from the artillery. On elite units as well. The artillery has been magnificent in this battle, if I do say so myself. Veterans of Osgiliath, again, it's hard to see arrows, non-fire arrows anyway, flying in a battle such as this. Wesker doing his best. Oof. Another good hit. Another square hit into those elite forces. And again, another unit of Snaga, presumably, that have come back after routing. Trying to prop this line up, making sure that they still have the numbers to break through. That's so brutal. The sound effects can scarcely keep up. The Temple Guard are still firing. They took a beating on the way through. They really took the wrong route into the settlement. Black Uruks. The Witch Realm units are still alive. Still doing what they can. The Sons of Argonath and the Dunedain Knights stand in their way though. Dunedain Knights pretty fresh as well. They aren't armour piercing though. Definitely a thoroughly defensive unit. Look at all these shield. Oh, look at that. There's scarcely a more Gondorian sight than the shielded Fountain Guard in Shield War. With their mighty tower shields. There's the Dunedain Knights as well. Again, they need to be committed. If they're just going to stand there in Shield Wall, they need to help the Guards of Osgiliath, because the Guards of Osgiliath are being whittled down slowly but surely. Okay, over there we can see Orc Fellas again. I presume more units that were routed by the artillery that are returning. Coming back for another go. If you bang your head on a wall enough times, it will start to have some cracks appear in it. And as you can see, the advantage the defenders now hold is only 1%. And again, that's with these absolutely horrendous artillery shots that they're getting. But again, the elite infantry that they are now damaging pretty severely, it could be what they need. The defenders could win this. I'm rooting for the defenders, honestly. I've seen too many battles where the attacking orcs win. Especially on this one, the biggest battle in terms of men on the field that I've ever shown. I would quite like for the defenders to win. First one I've shown in a long time on Minas Tirith as well. Last time I showed a battle on Minas Tirith, I think it was actually over a year ago. Another good hit. Another good hit on Shield Guard. These Dunedain Knights, what are they doing? Balance of forces is evenly matched again. They're up against a lot of good units. Eventually, the catapult must be running pretty dry on ammunition as well. As soon as the catapult runs out of ammunition, they might want to think about falling back up the settlement. Trying to use those choke points to their advantage, because the defenders they've been aggressive enough that they've earned themselves the privilege of using Minas Tirith's choke points to their advantage. And the attackers still have the advantage in this fight. The percentage of kills is pretty rapidly going in their favour. Only a couple of kills from that hit. A couple more kills. A couple more kills. So the pikes are holding them in place long enough for more elite units to start falling. There's also Witch Realm Blackguard in there as well. Another miss. Can't really afford much in the way of misses at this point. What's going on up here? Those Orc fellas are routing at the hands of these dismounted Arthurdane Knights. Again, more low tier units that just keep routing and keep coming back, chipping away at the defenders bit by bit. These gate guards are still in the pocket. Can they be used? I mean, the gate guards, honestly, if you're going to hold here, you may as well send the gate guards forward. I mean, why not at this point? Do they still have ammunition? They do. The catapults still have ammunition, but now the attackers are starting to force their way through. They're going to be able to use the buildings as cover. And the Dunedain Knights will be able to surround them, though, so this force over here could well find themselves surrounded and killed. The catapult should therefore turn its attention back to the frontal push. More kills are going to be required, coming up on the 30,000 frame marks. And now they've actually managed to pull out friendly fire on Dunedain Knights. It's a lot of kills, but 3% ahead. So the defenders are starting to pull ahead again. I think at this point, because the Potato and I think it's Spartan, isn't it, the Mordor player? Let's go and take a look. Yes, the Spartan. They need to start thinking about committing their infantry on it, honestly. Because as it stands, their forces are being bled, and the more of their units that break, the more in trouble they're going to become. There's still lag. Let's test this out. Oh boy. Well, no matter. In the late game, I'm sure we can see the game run as it's supposed to. But, you know, I mean, there's a price to pay for enormous battles like this. I mean, like, I'm going to try and guess at how many men are on the field. Again, there's probably about 25,000 for the evil factions, maybe about 12 for the defenders, maybe a bit less. So looking at around 35,000 in total, I think. I could be wrong. I mean, there could be even more, but somehow I doubt it. There is a limit to how many men you can use without hacking the game to have like hundreds and hundreds of men. Oh, that's one of the attacking generals. That could be very significant, actually.
Lost control of the city.
The attackers losing a general when they're taking this much in terms of sustained artillery fire could be very significant indeed. I believe that was Pizza Maker's general. I still think that those Witchers in the late game, when the defenders have used up all their skirmishers, could be the thing that... They could be the thing. But still, a 3% advantage. It's not often you see the defenders start to pull out more of an advantage in the later game. We're under attack. Were you bolder than roosters? These Arthur Day Knights just kind of hanging out on the wall, making sure that they can't be flanked. Dunedain Bodyguard, they still have ammunition. But over here, the Rudar Berserkers were able to force their way through. Oh, there goes another attacking general, and I assume that was Stewed Funguses, because those are Witch Round Blackguard, and it is actually right over here. You can see in the background the Dunedain Knights surrounding these Rudar Berserkers. So yeah, the attackers are starting to make some pretty severe missteps here. This could be it. This could be a significant 5v3 victory for the defenders. Another good hit. This is unbelievable. This is the best display from artillery I've seen in... Well, I don't know. In terms of Third Age, Vanilla, or Reforged, or anything, this is the best artillery display I've seen. I saw a few decent ones on Medieval 2 as well, but again, I don't think I've seen any as good as this. Even with the mighty Mangonel and the slightly less mighty Revolt. They need to add the Great Bombard and make it Grond. I know that Grond was technically a ram, but if they give a Great Bombard with a Grond model one shot that can destroy a gate or a wall instantly, wouldn't that be fun? Or maybe make it super expensive and give it the ability to take out a load of walls. I'd be all about it. Meanwhile, back over here you can see that more men are being committed. The Spartan is sending in his Morgul Chosen to take on these Dunedain Knights. A little bit too late to save Stewed Fungus' general though, and now the Morgul Chosen are finding themselves the target of the catapult fire, which I'm sure they love. The Morgul Chosen skull on the shield looks like Grim Fandango. Oof. A grazing shot at best, but still, I wish I could see that the catapult kills. I really do. Victory seems certain for these Blackguard.
If we continue like this, we will...
It's amazing that victory still seems certain for them in spite of everything they've been through. Look at the green. Victory still seems certain for the attackers, apparently. 4% though, the defenders are pulling further ahead. You have to imagine that when they do run out of artillery shots, then they will be in a little bit more trouble. These Dunedain Knights are starting to retreat, it looks like, or they want to. I'm not sure why, honestly. I mean, they should be fine engaging the Morgul Chosen here. Oh, that's why. Good move. They're just getting a nice shot for their catapult. Getting more nice hits on another elite unit. Oh, and it's point blank. It's brutal. This is vicious. The attackers must be thinking, well, we might get through this when they finally run out of ammunition, but how are we going to take the rest of the settlement exactly? We're going to have to break through those shielded fountain guard? Are you kidding me? And more gate guards? You can't do that. There's guards of Osgiliath coming down the hill. Yeah. The Arnor Gate Guards victory is a distinct possibility. Something like Rudar Berserkers is not going to be able to break through a unit like Gate Guards. Gate Guards require more than one unit. Ugh. It's so... I'm so glad I got sent this one. Even though it's kind of laggy, and even though it's going to be like 2 hours long on YouTube, the artillery makes it worth it. And the setting. Who doesn't like Minas Tirith? Oh boy. There's a lot of green around here, although now the Witch Realm units are going to be defeated. There simply isn't enough of them left, and they have to deal with a largely intact unit of dismounted Dunedain Knights. The Arnorians taking the fight to the Witch Realm units, and finally... oh, excuse me. Stewed Fungus's army is being largely dealt with. The Spartans sending his Temple Guard a little closer. They might be out of ammunition. There's only 37 of them remaining. Not good. Those Uruks need to do something in the background. Their attack's falling apart. Ooh, Trolls of Gundabad. Temple Inquisitors. The Temple Inquisitors honestly need to be saved for the end. They are the melee powerhouse that could send the attackers over the line. Oh man. This has actually helped my voice, I think. Unbelievably. One of the trolls got caught in that artillery shot. How much ammunition does this catapult have? I mean, I guess we're on half speed, so the passage of time is slower. More trolls dying in that catapult volley. What can they do? I mean, the trolls immediately are turning around. The guards of Osgiliath being sent forward. Another pike unit. I think the defenders are going to win this. Oh, see-through building. Some of the buildings are see-through on Minas Tirith and some aren't. Another nice hit. I can't see how the attackers are going to deal with this. Like, they've taken so many losses to those catapults. And they're 4% behind. I mean, in terms of the percentages, they should still pull it back, but the defensive positions and the elite units that the defenders have, I don't see how they can. The attackers have taken some pretty serious losses. What's that unit in the background over there? Scourge Raiders? Yeah. They're good, but they're not good enough to deal with some of the units that are left. Shadow Guard are firing over the walls. They'll get some kills, but not too many. Arcing their shots like that against primarily heavily shielded units. Shielded Fountain Guard and Dunedain Knights. It'll take armor-piercing arrows to really do significant damage to them. The catapult still has ammunition. Oh my. I can't wait to see the kill stats. Even just the total kills for each faction. I want to see which one of the defenders has managed to inflict the most serious wounds on the attackers. I mean, I assume it's Son of the Dunedain, just because this catapult has been absolutely unbelievable. These trolls, they're deciding rather wisely not to go down the road where the catapult lies. Death lies down this road. The Shielded Fountain Guard have been committed though, and the Shielded Fountain Guard will mean that this line is very secure indeed. These Orc fellas that have presumably come back from routing are going to try and take on Arthedain Knights and Dunedain Knights. The Temple Guard should actually do a decent job. We shall see. We'll see what the Trolls are able to do against the Arnorian Gate Guards. These Rudar, but again, the Arnorian Gate Guards don't kill very quickly. There are Scourge Raiders in here as well. There's a very depleted unit of Arthedain Knights trying to back the pikemen up, but these Trolls are just what they need. If they can break through here, they can finally put an end to this lower defence. Also, it doesn't escape my notice that I said I'd up the speed again to 1 when the lower defence was lost, but I mean, it could be that the defenders just defend this lower point. The Shielded Fountain Guard have actually retreated. They've decided that no, we don't need to actually commit ourselves, we're going to save. And these veterans of Osgiliath still have ammunition. Son of the Dunedain's catapult crew, he's trying to sort of move it back a little bit. These Dunedain Knights, victory is almost a certainty. The lag is starting to kick back in again a little bit. Again, these Temple Guard, defeat is almost a certainty now because there just aren't enough of them left. Only 20. And they're a very good unit. They're not as good as the Temple Inquisitors in melee, of course, but they're pretty darn close, and they add to that a pretty potent ranged presence. Not the best, as I've said, but still significant for an evil faction. Something that Gundabad certainly doesn't have. The Witchers are somewhat different when it comes to having a ranged presence on the field. The Morgul Chosen, they have decided to change tactics. They're not going to go down the road where the catapult is at anymore. They are going to focus on the gate guards, which again, it's a bad day for you as the attackers when the road that is basically completely sealed off with Arnor gate guards and dismounted Arthane Knights is the best option. It is the safest route and the one most likely to yield results. And again, just look at all the elite units. Again, the defenders have committed a lot of their elites as well now. So in the late game that may cost them, but Minas Tirith is so defensible. I can't see them losing. 19. Oh, they're the Witchers. I don't want to get too close to them, but the Witchers are now firing at the defending position. This could be it. This could be just what the attackers need. The Witchers do need to hurry and fire their payload though at this area. The dismounted Dunedain Knights and the Guards of Osgiliath are a worthwhile tactic. They cannot afford to hit the wall. They really can't afford to hit the wall. The Witchers are strong, I do admit, but oh, there's a big rout. So the Witchers are going to have to run away. So they're still going to have some ammunition, but I think that the Witchers are accurate, and you can essentially mow down a unit with them. I'm not sure if they aren't maybe a little bit too expensive for what they offer at the minute, because they are so easily singled out. I don't know. What do I know? I'm not one of the developers after all. Interestingly enough though, the development essentially of the next patch, initially it started off as sort of just the stats rebalancing, but it is going to be the biggest patch from now until full release, I believe. I think that Linden are sort of confirmed to be added for the next patch. Possibly a second Dwarven faction as well, depending on how much they want to do with it, apparently. I think that maybe... I don't... Again, I only get sort of drips and drabs of information, but Khazad-dûm may become their own faction, and then like this, I suppose the standard dwarves that are in the game at the moment would become Erebor. There's more artillery. It must be so disheartening for the attackers. Númenórean Shadow Guard now being committed to melee. That's a sign that they're getting a little bit desperate. There's still 20,000 frames though. 20,000 frames and we're looking... There's not much in the way of men left. So I can only assume that there's like one choke point battle where it's all decided. If that's the case, I will cut out a good deal of that. I'm not going to sit here for an hour and a half and talk about how a choke point battle is unfolding slowly and bit by bit. Not in a single choke point anyway. 2 choke points is a different matter, because that's what I've been doing for the past half hour. Here come the Scourge Raiders. The attackers throwing everything in the kitchen sink at the defenders at this point. I don't see what they can do. They're going to take so many losses coming through this lower area, and the defenders still have enough at the top, I think, to hold them off. These Arnor gate guards, they're going to hold. They're going to hold the line. Arnor strong. And they didn't even have their OP 2 Knights of Illuminus. Just their base units. Arnor, I believe, well, they will be renamed to Arthedain in the next patch. The Kingdom of Arnor will be comprised of Arthedain, which of course is this faction, Cardolan, which will be of course, you know, the new name for Eriador, and Rudour, which will become their own faction, and quite right too. While the Shielded Fountain Guard are being accosted by some trolls. The trolls will not be able to affect too much of an advance. I mean, even if they do get through, there's still Veterans of Osgiliath, which are a very strong infantry unit in their own right, firing their missiles into the advancing orcs. If they can hit the Temple Inquisitors, that's what they want to do, all the Witches. I want to get pretty far away from them. I really don't want it to crash at this point. It's taken me so long to get here. The Witches are reloading. No, get out of the way, Scourge Raiders. I want to see when they're firing. Well, this is exactly what they need. The gate guards have managed to push through. This Witcher volley could be it. If they can break through this defence now, with the men they have left, they should still win. That will have killed Witchers. Did it kill enough of them? I don't want to get close just in case they suddenly fire and it crashes the game. I can't see them. Please tell me that the Witchers can get a volley off. My. This is madness, this battle. Meanwhile, I can see some units over there advancing. Egg Slop on top. His Uruks are moving forward. Finally. It may be a little too late. I mean, standard Uruks are not going to be able to do much against an elite unit, but they can at least add some mass. Where are those Witchers? Some of them must have survived. They surely didn't all die. Ah, there they are. Firing missiles. Nope, they're reloading. Have they bugged? Please tell me they haven't bugged. This battle's been so good so far. Sons of Argonath are still alive. There's just orcs that are just... orcs and trolls that are sort of worming their way in behind the lines. The catapult crew. It's possible that the catapult at this point is out of ammo, but the damage has been done. The gap, 5% now. The defenders, I think they have it. They're hammering home their advantage. At this point, if I were the defenders, I'd bring all my forces down and try and attack. Sally out. Surround the attackers. Hem them in, and you can see there are still Hammer Guard in and amongst them. A unit of 113 Witch Realm Hammer Guard. It's a sort of unit that can turn a battle around, but do they have it in them? Oh, sorry for blowing my nose so much. Defeat seems certain for the Gate Guards. They must have run through the Rudal Berserkers then. And they have some Arthur Knights back enough, and also a unit of Shielded Fountain Guard is going to help them out as well. So they will pretty soon stabilise, I feel, but this is the one and only front. Well, now the Uruks have come forward, and those Sons of Argonath will, well, there aren't enough of them, so the Uruks will manage to run them down. The Uruks charging forth, opening up the other front. The Uruks will not win, and again, just more orcs, more attrition. Can they turn it around? Just look at the dead bodies. Can't be nice. Running over just dozens and dozens of your dead comrades. The balance of forces is evenly matched over here. The defenders, they're all... I see you. That could be vicious. Here it comes. There it is. Oh. The burning. So this defensive line could crumble at this point. With the addition of the Uruks attacking from the other side, they can't afford to reinforce here. There's a few missed shots there. Actually no, they set a catapult on fire. They've now changed their target, it seems. Nope. Veterans of Osgiliath are the target of their affection now. And the Gate Guards. The Witchers may have just turned this around. That was a significant amount of burning that they just did. Defeat is now looking certain on several fronts. Oh my word. The flaming streaks of death. They still have ammo as well. Maybe I was a bit too hasty. Maybe I just need to get good with the Witchers, and now the defenders are deciding that they don't want any part of this anymore and are running away. Oh my word, that's fantastic. I'm sure the attackers felt very vindicated when this started happening after the horrendous savaging they received from the artillery. This can only be good for the frame rate as well. The more unimodels that die. There's wargs down there. Bolg's champions are coming in. They want a piece, and I think that's it for the Witchers. The Witchers don't have much in the way of ammo. Although that warg did die, so he paid for that aggressive push. That was fantastic. The witches, the artillery, all the units that you usually see focused down so quickly have been used in this battle, and they've been used well. Look at all of this. The wargs. I'm sure the wargs are thinking, what are we meant to do in this situation? I mean, just charging through, I guess, is the only thing they can do. Defeat is almost a certainty now. Again, these Uruks are just sort of piling into the front of them, and they will also be hammer and anvil pretty soon. The Bolgs champions are also coming in. So finally, the lowest reaches of Minas Tirith will be conquered by the attackers. The Witchers finally providing the hammer blow that was needed. There are smouldering corpses of Dunedain littering the streets now. So what do the defenders have left? That is the question. These veterans of Osgiliath are reloading. These gate guards are running for the hills. This trebuchet crew is still dying one by one to that troll. What's the percentage looking like after that? It pulled it back basically by 2%. So the defenders still have a 3% advantage. Will that be enough? Again, you can still see from the lag though that I'm not going to be able to increase the speed to 1 just yet. I think we might have to wait a little longer. Certainly when we reach 40,000 frames and past that. Just trying to think of how long this battle's actually going to be. It'll probably be the longest video I've done as well, even longer than that enormous Osgiliath one that Horton made. Breaking all kinds of records for my channel today. Based on the lag, possibly the amount of dislikes as well. Meanwhile over here, this troll is all alone. Winged swordsman, so the defenders are committing more down here. They are not abandoning the lower layer. Good on them. They may live to regret that, but good on them. The orcs are starting to move forward. They need to attack as one. They really can't afford to attack piecemeal. We shall see how this pans out. The defenders are going to hold this choke point. The attackers won't have much in the way of range left either. They have saved their Temple Inquisitors, although over here, veterans of Osgiliath that still have ammunition. What's that down there? Dunedain Bodyguard. What are they doing out here? This is aggressive. The Nazgul? Well, against Nazgul and Temple Inquisitors, the Dunedain Bodyguard will not have much success. So this is another fairly important unit that's being killed. The attackers, could they do it? It was looking poor for them for a while, but now with those witches may have been clutch. They may have been just what they needed. I can see routing orc fellas again. How many times are they going to run away and come back? There's a lot of Uruks that are routing as well, so Eggslop on top's army is... It's not looking too good for him either. What's this over here? Witches? Witches being committed to melee. They are not as good as the Nazgul in melee. They are significantly... They do have a significant disadvantage in melee, particularly when they're on their own. They can still be very potent if you commit them with another unit. Very much like the Nazgul in that respect, they're just not quite as good. The fiery balls of death are really the thing that sets them apart. I don't know, you know, the defenders still have a lot of elite units. Shielded Fountain Guard holding the road. Difficult to get information around these catapults. Wardens of the White Tower, yeah, the defenders are serious. The Gondorians are serious anyway. They're committing most of their forces to sort of defend as much of their city as possible. I mean, there's a case for wanting to abandon it if the whole city gets covered in orc corpses. Scourge Raiders. There's not very many of them, but they will at least prevent these veterans of Osgiliath from firing their arrows for a time. They may well rout pretty quickly. There's also these Rudauer Berserkers. There's Dunedain Bodyguard are running away. Uruk Bodyguard, Temple Inquisitors. The Nazgul will be in there somewhere as well. Again, I might make a small cut here. We'll move forward to the 40,000 frame marks, otherwise YouTube is not going to thank me for uploading such a long video. It will take forever to encode. And for the time being, the battle has turned static because there is no artillery fire and no arrow fire. So we'll see you around the 40,000 frame mark. So we're into the final stretch now, and as you can see, oh, excuse me, the worst time for me to rejoin there. The frontal assault from the attackers is starting to peter out a little bit. They still have their Witch Realm units here, and the balance of forces is evenly matched, but if they choose to really commit these Winged Swordsmen and Wardens of the White Tower, they would be able to win over here. Over on this front, however, there's a little bit more of a pensive approach being played out. The Temple Inquisitors haven't charged in to the Shielded Fountain Guard. The Nazgul are also somewhere around here. But over here we can see that really we're into the final stage of the battle now. If we look here, 90% to 88%. And to be honest with you, there isn't actually much I can say at this point, because it is now a choke point battle. The defenders have committed basically everything they have, and I think they will have enough. I think that they've managed to do enough damage to the enemy elites that they will have enough units to deal with the attackers. Again, if you bring the Spartan bring forward a fairly elite unit in the Uruk bodyguard, but it's not going to be enough, I think, to turn this around. I just don't think they have enough. This has been a thoroughly enjoyable match to watch, though. And again, it might be that obviously the other big battle I did was the Horton scenario on Osgiliath, and in both cases it might be that the battles where I've had a ludicrous amount of people on the field in the two iconic Gondorian settlements, that the defenders actually win. Because it is looking very good for them. They have the position. The attackers do not have the brute force nor the range capability to smoke them out. The Witchers, I thought for a moment that might be the thing they needed to really turn this around, but at this point I don't think they have enough left in reserve. I really don't. See here, there are veterans of Osgiliath. These veterans of Osgiliath up on the wall. Defeat is a distinct possibility. What are they fighting? Oh, they're fighting the Nazgul. Let's just get in nice and close here. The veterans of Osgiliath are a grizzled force, to be sure, but they are no match for the 9. The 9 may take a few losses to them, though, to be fair. Meanwhile, down here, the Temple Inquisitors have finally been activated. This is what the attackers need to do, because the Temple Inquisitors will beat the Shielded Fountain Guard. It'll take them a little while, but they'll get through. Unfortunately for them, the Gate Guards are turning around, and they will tune their pikes in on this very elite Mordor unit. And that will be enough, I think, to hold them back long enough for the defenders to win on the other side and wrap up the attacking forces. What a fight, though. And there's still over 10,000 frames to go. I might actually have to make another cut, because as it is, the frames are not getting better either. I think that it's just a case of if it starts off bad, it never improves on a replay. Because I have noticed that. Like, at this point, there's few enough men on the field that it should be getting better, but unfortunately it's not. That was another version of Azog, dying there, falling to some Gondorian winged swordsmen, and over here the attackers don't have a prayer. There's simply too much in the way of elite Gondorians. You can see the Citadel Bodyguard and the Wardens of the White Tower. The defenders realise this. They've committed basically everything. I think the only units at the top now are the routed units of Arthur Dane men-at-arms that ran away. These are bodyguarded there. I mean, at this point, why not commit them? The charges from these Bolgs champions are not going to do the damage you want them to do. And I don't think the attackers have much in the way of options left. And if we look here back at the percentages, still 2%. The attackers not being able to make any inroads. The elite defenders are all that is left. Now we can see the defenders are breaking through on this front. The Witch Realm units are finally crumbling. They don't have enough left. The winged swordsmen have slipped through. The defenders will be able to engage these Uruk bodyguard in melee, and with the sheer weight of numbers they have, they will have success. There's a bunch of perpetually routing units all over the map for the attackers. The wargs have also largely been dealt with. The defenders have taken a few losses over here. The Witch Realm units don't go down without a fight, but they haven't been able to do enough damage. The Citadel Bodyguard and the Wardens of the White Tower will be enough. And again, the Uruk Bodyguard are good, but they're not as good as some of the Gondorian units arrayed against them. And if we look back over here, we can see that the veterans of Osgiliath are coming down. Let's have a look at what's going on over here. Yep, the veterans of Osgiliath have not been able to kill a single Nazgul. They are being very slowly bled out, but they are at least distracting the Nazgul. Eventually the Nazgul will not be able to stand against sheer weight of numbers. The Temple Inquisitors, though, they're actually winning over here against Arnor Gate Guards and Shielded Fountain Guard, fighting uphill into 2 units in formation. Another unit of veterans of Osgiliath is being committed to just shore up this line to make sure they don't actually punch through. If we look here, actually it's back down to 1%. What's that over there? There's more egg slop on top units. I wonder why they're still there. It's possible he was dropped from the game, but I kind of doubt it, because he had units that were over there ages ago, and there were still units moving. Weird. Regardless, the fight goes on, and it's still close. Honestly, the defenders need to be careful here. They need to commit all of their units if they're going forward. They can't hold shit in reserve. What have they got? They got units back here somewhere. Or have they? Or have they committed everything? No, that's the unit that's back there. It's a unit of 2 infantry. So what have they got at the top here? Do they still have a unit in reserve just in case things go south? No, they have a perpetually unit of guards of Osgiliath and something else that's routing without end. Well, never mind then. This is it. The final stand. Oh my. Even on half speed, we're still lagging. This is going to be... There are Uruks back there. I mean, at this point, even if he has been dropped, it's still units the defenders need to deal with because they haven't routed yet. Does this catapult still have ammo? If it does, there's hope for the defenders yet. This is so close. Another real close battle. I'm getting sent a load of decent quality battles lately. These Citadel Bodyguard. There's still these 2 Bolgs champions trying to charge in and do some damage. Now the Winged Swordsmen are going to engage the Uruk Bodyguard. We're down, you know, we're getting into the final 10,000 frames now. We're getting close to it. And we're in the final 10% of both forces' numbers. This is going to be... Well, it's been a fantastic fight up to this point, to see how close it's been, to finally get a decent battle on Minas Tirith. It was such a good one as well. Meanwhile, the Nazgul still at full strength. The veterans of Osgiliath, they're not designed to deal with a unit like that at all. The Temple Inquisitors, they're slowly losing men, but they're so good. They're ripping their way through the gate guards. The Shielded Fountain Guard will not be able to hold them. The veterans of Osgiliath will not be able to hold them, but they will be damaged once they get through. But this leaves the question, how strong will this force over here be when all is said and done? Because it's a force of Citadel Bodyguard, Wardens of the White Tower and Winged Swordsmen, as well as like a few assorted units from other bits and pieces essentially. They need to rear-charge the Temple Inquisitors really to get them off the field with all due haste. The player has admitted defeat at this point. I imagine it's one of the Orc armies. What is actually going on right now? The Winged Swordsmen have engaged the Uruk Bodyguard, maybe? Doesn't say they're actually in combat though. The Gondor infantry are. What's going on? Where did those Citadel Bodyguard go? Oh, I see. They're going to try and rear-charge, aren't they? Yes, they are. Good move. They need to do it quickly though. Again, this Uruk Bodyguard is the softest target left on the field for them. Not counting the perpetually stuck units of Uruks in the background, but there's no point going after them yet. The Spartan is the only sort of attacking player left standing between the defenders and an unlikely victory at this point. But he's got a lot of decent units left, a lot of pretty strong, pretty healthy, hyper-elite units left, and the defenders are starting to look a little bit haggard. And they've got no artillery to rely on. The catapults are now out of ammunition. The Uruks, I think, are going to try and defend the rear of the Temple Inquisitors. It's not a bad plan, actually. Mordor, at this point, may as well just bunch up everything they have left together and try and make a final stand. They could win if they do that. The Nazgul will have the shield they need. And yep, the Uruk Bodyguard, I think they are actually just trying to get into a more defensive position. Make sure they don't get rear-charged by that Citadel Bodyguard. Again, this is the more elite version of the Citadel Guard as well, so I believe they actually have armor piercing on their spears. And that could be just the thing to destroy this Uruk Bodyguard once and for all. A lot of good armor piercing units. In addition to the Gondorian Winged Swordsmen that will fall down upon them, and we are now into the final 10,000 frames. As we lag our way towards the finish line, and it's still so close, but I think the attackers have it now. That Witcher volley might well have won them the game, because I think the defenders have just run out of steam. Right at the very end here, the Gondorian is the one that's left. It's essentially Gondor versus Mordor, as it was destined to be at Minas Tirith, I suppose. But yeah, they are now dead even, 91 to 91%. I don't see how they're going to defeat that Nazgul if they're depleted. The Citadel bodyguard spreading out. They need to engage. They need to destroy this Uruk bodyguard quickly. If they are unable to do that, this is game over. We turn around. That Nazgul still at full strength. The Temple Inquisitors down here, 67. The defenders just struggling to deal with these Mordor units. Could it be? Even with that artillery. I mean, all the attackers attacked all at once and aggressively as well, so I would have been amazed if the defenders had won this. But it's looking more and more like they're not going to be able to see it through to the end. This Uruk bodyguard is actually victory, seems a certainty for them over here. So the Mordor forces from the Spartan may well be the heroes of the day. Or anti-heroes, I suppose. Even the elites of Gondor struggling to see off Sauron's finest. They saw off his weakest well enough. But here I'm the winged swordsman. They are a good unit, but they're just too fragile in this sort of situation, I think. They don't have hit points. They have a higher attack than the Sons of Argonath, but the Sons of Argonath have 3 hit points. The winged swordsmen do not have any. And in the end, that's why you don't see them all that often, to be honest with you, because if you want a cheaper shock unit that's more focused around armor piercing and doing damage, you pick the Lasarnak Nobles. What are the Temple Inquisitors doing? They still haven't lost another man yet, although admittedly we are going at half speed, so it's a little hard to tell. This is going to be close though. The Gondorians won't go gently into that good night, but I think that they will lose here. Those are the Wardens of the White Tower in the background as well. They should be committed against the Uruk bodyguard, to be honest. They need to kill the Uruk bodyguard and they need to surround Mordor. The Citadel bodyguard, they might well push through on their own, but they need to push through faster than they are doing. Will the White City fall? Just a quick look up at Minas Tirith. It is an imposing sight. But I'm actually quite glad that the fight was decided down here on the bottom layer. Because that is, it does look like that's where it's going to be. I mean, there are 2 units right at the top, but they're both perpetually routing, so this is it. Oh, the Arnor Gate Guards are coming around here, so there are actually more forces being sent around to try and help deal with the Uruk bodyguard. And the Gate Guards were doing very poorly against the Temple Inquisitors, so they're being committed over here instead. A decent move. Ooh. The lag is even starting to get to me on half speed. The Temple Inquisitors still on 67. The Shielded Fountain Guard are just not able to do any damage to them. They're just too skilled. They are bloodied, and they may well be losing some hit points, but it's hard to see what the Gondorians can do. I mean, the Nazgul might turn out to be the match winners here, because you can see over here they are victorious. Do the Gondorians really have anything that can defeat the Nazgul? They can overwhelm them, but I don't think they're going to have enough men left after the Temple Inquisitors and Uruk bodyguard are dealt with. You can see there the Citadel bodyguard have lost a few more men. The Uruk bodyguard are still standing reasonably strong. They will lose, but they will take their fair share of Gondorians with them. What a fight this has been. I'm so glad that it might have been Master Blaster that sent me this one actually, and not Stewed Fungus, but it was Stewed Fungus saved the file. A big thanks to everyone involved in this fight as well though. Again, every time I try to do a big match on Minas Tirith, someone crashes or desyncs usually. Which is a real shame, because while it does tend to be quite a grindy sort of map, as I'm sure people have noticed again, it's been primarily a fight of clusters and wall fights and that sort of thing. It's still... it's Minas Tirith. It's iconic. Who doesn't want to play as Gondor defending Minas Tirith from the Orc hordes, even if it looks like they're going to lose? Let's just have a quick scoot around the battlefield, shall we? There's a few dead out here, but primarily if we go into the settlement and just sort of pick our way through, you can see there's just small patches of dead bodies, and then as we go in through here, we can see the units that are stuck. I mean, if these units weren't stuck, then the Orcs would have easily won, but even so, it's become, well, I wouldn't say easily, these are all Uruks after all. And if they had been committed, they probably would have just been flattened by artillery anyway. You can see over here is where the primary fight was, and I think the dead bodies are what is causing the lag. There are so many, they're like 5 or 6 deep in places. But the Orcs like that sort of thing, I'm sure. The Uruk bodyguard is still holding. Again, it's a real grind here at the end. I'm not sure I want to cut any of this though. I mean, it is a grind and nothing much is changing, but this is where the battle will be decided. The Nazgul are gone. Have they joined the fight somewhere? Are they down here? No, that's just an officer. When the Nazgul join the fight, that's... yeah, there they are. The Nazgul are going to reinforce the Temple Inquisitors, maybe? Temple Inquisitors have lost a few more. And victory is a distinct possibility over here. Hoo-hoo-hoo. Well, again, I'm not really sure what to say at this point. My commentary is sort of petering out, mainly because I've said all that needs to be said. Now all that remains is really to just sort of ride this one out. Again, I might I don't know, I kind of want to make a small cut because nothing is really advancing in any sort of pace. And it's going to take these spearmen and these Uruk bodyguard ages to murder one another. So yes, I think I will make a small cut, and I'm just going to position myself in such a place where I can see both fronts. There we go. And yes, I will make a little mini cut here. Well, I mean, the fight is breaking up into something incredibly chaotic, and it does actually look like the Gondorians might win over here. I mean, the Temple Inquisitor's presence does mean that they're going to take a tremendous amount of losses anyway. But the Nazgul did largely die. I think there was only 2 left the last time I checked. They might all be dead at this point. The Uruk bodyguard victory seems certain. The fight is getting spread out. The lag is still here. Please, game. Please, work with me. The Gondorian wing swordsmen all over the place. There's a trebuchet crew. All hands to the pump. Yeah, we're finally into the final 3,000 frames. I'm just gonna let it run now. I'm gonna stay here into the bitter end. Now that it isn't a line fight, things should start to go a little bit more quickly. The balance of forces is evenly matched. Let's zoom in a little bit further. Hang on. Oh, you unoptimized piece of shit. All of these Gondorian units. It's such a tragedy that even if they win over here, they've still got to deal with too many Uruks. And I don't think they will, honestly. Looking at the amount of frames left, if they were to win over here and then run over there, the Uruks would take all day killing them. So I think the Temple Inquisitors are going to end up being the match winners here. Unless someone admits defeat. Uruk bodyguard are largely gone at this point. Are the Gondorians going to try and sort of regroup? Pulling through Temple Inquisitors is a fantastic way to get yourself killed. Well, it was exciting in the early game. Towards the end it's turned into a laggy grind fest, but even so, I would expect nothing less from Minas Tirith. And if you see the carpet of dead bodies, in the end it was all worth it. What are they doing? Are they going to try and go after the static Uruks? Perhaps? Well, over here they're leaving behind a few units of Citadel Bodyguard which will be picked off. The brave Gondorians. Looks like their city is going to fall after all. Man, it is late at night and I'm amazed my voice is holding up. My voice actually feels better for some reason. It is getting late though. That Gondorian there has got blood all over his hair. How unfortunate for him. What are these guys actually doing? Let's just go to 1.0. The lag is here anyway. Embrace the lag. They are I don't know why these Gondorians are spreading out, unless they're accepting their fate. I would appreciate that at this point, because it's very clear that the Gondorians are not going to win this. There are still some Arnold gate guards here. Let's go to ×2 speed. Maximum lag. Temple Inquisitors so strong, despite fighting uphill into elite unit after elite unit, they're still alive. That Temple of Sauron video I did really showed the strength of the Temple Inquisitors, even against the finest that Rune and Umbar had to offer. It still managed to carve its way through all of it. In the end, it was eventually stopped by, Dragon's Wrath Guildsmen, I believe. Of course, after it had gone through basically all of my Umbar elite units and several Runic elite units. Temple Inquisitors are also bunched up now. What is going on? The Gondorian units heading down here. Oh my word. Look at the frames. Where have they gone? Hovering over these dead bodies. Yeah, it's this one Arthur Dane man-at-arms. Or man-at-arms. Yeah, he's not going to be able to beat those Uruks all by his lonesome. I imagine that there's going to be a case of admitting defeat, actually. Based on how many frames are left. Ugh! Please. Please, game, mercy. Well, this hasn't been as bad as the Temple of Sauron one for lag. I mean, in the late game it has, but I've managed to mitigate that a little better this time. Thank Christ. Because I didn't want to throw this one away, because I'll never get a... Well, I'll struggle anyway to get a good battle on Minas Tirith at short notice. Oh my god, please. Even the audio's getting echoey now. The game's breaking down. A player has admitted defeat. Might be one of the orcs. More likely it's Master Blaster, the Arnorian army that has got nothing left. What's that? Yep, those Gondorians are off down there. Off to face the Uruks. For the time being, we will stay over here though. Screw it. I'll turn the speed down again, why not? It's unbearable, I can't stand it when it lags that badly. At least here I can actually move the camera. These Temple Inquisitors, victory is a distinct possibility. They're going to finish off these gate guards. For a long time I thought the attackers had lost too many men. That artillery was brutal and yet they were still able to pull through. So it does go to show that having a 2-army advantage can override so much in the way of a quality deficiency, because obviously the attackers' first wave was largely stomped into the dirt by the defenders. But fair play to the defenders, they must have got a ton of kills. Right, let's not see the fight of the pikemen anymore. So they obviously managed to pull through that initial unit of Uruks very quickly. As we can see, Eggslop on Top's army is still in this gap over here. He does have some Morgul chosen in amongst this mess as well, and some Sauron's will. So there were a few elite units that were left behind, but again it does simulate the fact that really in this situation the attackers should attack in waves, otherwise it's so easy to just crush the defenders with numbers. So in the end it did actually help with the balancing of this map. Here we can see the Trebuchet. We are now finally coming into the final 1,000 frames. I thought I'd never make it. This has taken me about 3 hours to record, and it took 5 hours to play. Obviously the final YouTube version will probably be closer to 1 hour and 40 minutes. At least I assume. It might well be the longest video I've done. And if so, then so be it. If you're going to do a long video, why not do it on Minas Tirith? Again, these Uruks. As soon as the Sauron's will get involved, I think this is where this fight will start to go in favour of Mordor. But it is going to be more kills for the defenders. I'm sure that Wesker wanted the distinction of having the most kills. There goes one of the Trebuchet crewmen stabbed by an orc. Hard to say who the MVP of this match was. I think that I think that it has to go to Stewed Fungus, because while his army was utterly obliterated, the use of those witches is ultimately what turned this battle around. If he didn't use those witches, the defenders absolutely would have won this game, because those defensive lines would have held for far, far longer. And the witches were able to essentially remove the overall effectiveness of 3 or 4 elite units, and that swung the battle. At that point, the defenders didn't have enough left in reserve to deal with what followed from the Spartans' army. Well, the Mordor army, the Spartans' army. This ain't Rome 2. Thank Christ. How is this going to go? We are into the final stretch now. I can't imagine they're going to get much further. Might be a case of admitting defeat. I must have said that about 7 or 8 times by now. Can you tell that I'm running out of things to say? Unfortunately, I can't make the game go much faster, otherwise it lags. But fortunately we are right at the end, and when we have the kill statistics, I'll finally have something else to talk about. There's nothing that annoys me more than lag, for some reason. It makes me... I've lost the word completely. My mind is shutting down because it's so late at night. Unreasonably angry, we'll go with. Yeah, defeat is now certain. Soundswell are actually not in melee, amazingly. It's just Uruks. Screw it. We're going to ×6 speed. Speeds, hereto never known by man. Look at that travesty of a frame rate. Okay, let's go to 2 speed. My word. What a game. It was a fantastic battle. I think that there needs to be some way of turning the corpse quality down, because that would help so much with the frame rate in this sort of situation. Just to make the corpses sprites would probably be the best thing. This is it. It's going to be an admit defeat, because there's no way the Uruks are going to kill Citadel Bodyguard that quickly. Unless someone maybe exited the game. Perhaps a rage quit, or a timeout, or a crash. Which is all possible. Not that it would have changed the outcome at all. Yeah, there we go. So it must have been a crash. Regardless. Oh no, that means I'm not going to be able to see the statistics. No! Oh, what a shame. Think of all those kills that the artillery got. We'll never be able to see how many. Ah, that's painful. Painful. Oh well. I guess it can't be helped. Well, that was Minas Tirith. It was a very good match, despite my complaining and lamenting at the lag at the end. But, yeah. I think I'll have to sort of manually work out how many men were on the field, because I can do that. I'll just be able to sort of go through the army compositions myself in my own time when I come to. I might put it in the description below the battle when I post it up on YouTube. The final tallies, as it were. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed that in spite of the lag at the end. That is, in terms of the total men fielded, the largest battle I have ever done. I know it's slightly more than the battle that I did on Osgiliath that one time in the Horton scenario, and this my first Minas Tirith map for a long time. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you'll join me for whatever is next, which is likely to be the Battle of Unnumbered Tears.